Hi everyone, my name is Ben. I'm a product manager at Docker based out of the UK.
And I'm Simon, and I'm a software developer at Docker, working on everything WSL2 with Docker Desktop.
So today we're just going to run you through a quick history of where we came from with WSL2, then look at how it's being adopted, jump into what we're currently working on, and then have a bit of a discussion about what we're doing next, and then kind of open it up for questions and answers. So this is going a little bit back in history, but it's quite fun how we got to where we are. We actually first spoke to Microsoft about WSL2 and integrating Docker Desktop with it back in April last year, which seems like a long time ago. And I still like the story of how we got our first WSL2 machine, which was Seymour. I think was it you, Seymour, that collected it?
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah, from the KubeCon EU, collected a laptop with the WSL2 build on it so we could start work, as it was the quickest way to get us a build. And that's when I learned the phrase "never underestimate the bandwidth of a 747." Having got a hold of that, rolling through into the July, we did our first release, which was quite an experimental release. It relied on bootstrapping everything into an existing distro and installing everything actually on that distro. There was no Docker distro in there. And really, it was just to prove that we could integrate with it and sort of got the initial desktop implementation working with it. With that released, we went back and we actually sort of went away and reworked creating a Docker Desktop distro as part of that and actually building a real implementation of Docker Desktop. And back in October, we did that first release of that onto our preview branch. And then we took a break because it was Christmas. I say we took a break, we fixed a lot of bugs. And we did a lot of work to stabilize the experience. And then at the start of this year, I was very excited, and I keep posting about this in all of my blogs, that we provided Windows Home support for the first time on Docker Desktop. So previously, we couldn't provide Windows Home support as Docker Desktop relied on Hyper-V, which isn't available on Windows Home, but WSL2 is. So in March, we enabled that, which sort of means those users can move away from things like Docker Toolbox and hopefully enjoy Docker Desktop. And then finally in May this year, we actually went GA the same time Microsoft did the initial release of WSL2 on Windows version 2004, and that was pretty awesome. It felt like a long road getting there. So since we released, and this is actually a bit more fun, I think this is the first time I've shared these numbers. So of users who are on Windows 2004, 90% of them are using WSL2. And that makes up 25% of all the Windows instances are now on WSL2. And I'll come to some of the more recent work we've done, which is on the next slide. I kind of got these in the wrong order, but about 3 weeks ago now, Microsoft backported WSL2 onto the 1909 and the 1903 branches of Windows, which means that when people pick up sort of that patch release, 80% of Docker Desktop instances will have access to WSL2. So we're expecting that 25% to shoot right up over the next couple of months. So realistically, we hope that in a few months' time, we'll have sort of 60-70% of Windows users using WSL2. And quite fun on the Windows Home side. We had pretty much 0 users before WSL2. There were a few people who were doing very experimental things to make Docker Desktop work on Windows Home. I won't talk about that. In our first week, we got about 5,000 users, and we've now got over 50,000 users every week who are using Docker Desktop on Windows Home, which is pretty cool. It's really nice to see that people are actually enjoying that and onboarding into that. So more recently, we had the Backboard, which sort of hopefully will give us access to a lot more people. And then Simon was explaining the next one to me that we did. Interestingly, the reason I wasn't aware of it is he fixed it on my week off. This one's very new. And I didn't reread my notes. I know what it fixed, but I can't remember what we did to fix it. So Seymour, you're going to help me out. I know that it meant that IDEs that weren't aware of WSL2 could still make use of the in WSL2 using files inside WSL2, but I couldn't remember how we did that.
Yeah, maybe I can help you with that. So the idea, the scenario that we want to cover is for IDs that can access network share and work across double backslash WSL network share for accessing WSL files. And they know how to interact with Docker, but they don't know the mapping between this particular network share and the fact that the files live within WSL2 itself. So what we did is that from any Win32 process, if you try to bind mount double backslash WSL and some files from within your distro, it will actually talk to the proxy that that runs inside your WSL distro and make sure that the bind mount works, and not only works but also have the same performance profile as if you run the CLI from within your distro. So yeah, that's unlocking a lot of complaints that we have from user using other IDs than VS Code.
Awesome. So what comes next? We have a couple of big items on our roadmap that we have a lot of feedback on. The first one is GPU support. So Microsoft's added support for GPU in WSL2, and we know people are excited to use things like PyTorch containers on Docker Desktop, and they're keen for us to support that. That is something that we are working out when we're going to do. One that I would love feedback on from everyone are Windows and Linux containers side by side and the experience of that. Pretty much everyone I talk to at the moment appears to be using Windows containers in one way or another. So I'd be really curious if you want to reach out. I think I've got my Twitter alias on here. If not, it's NEBUK89. Drop me a tweet. Very happy to chat about how you're using Windows and Linux containers if you're using them side by side. So these are sort of the two of the headline areas we want to work on with Docker Desktop and WSL2 soon. And then everything else kind of falls into more a bucket of ideas. And that's really where we need your input and your feedback. What would you like to see us doing with Docker Desktop and WSL2? What's hard today, and where can we help you? Where can we make it easier? We've discussed quite a few different things, including making it easier to get started working in make it easier to get started using the in-distro file system as opposed to working on the native Windows file system, and how we could try and make that easier for you. Or we've discussed different ways to support doing Windows and Linux container side by side, making it easier to move between the two. But really, what the next thing is after these two that we do with WSL2 is kind of up to the community to feedback. I've been a bad PM here. I've not put a link to Docker's roadmap in, which I should have done. github.com/docker/roadmap. Go there, submit ideas, upvote ideas. We review it twice a week, so we will listen.